Hello and welcome to Vassar Campfire Stories, a podcast where Rose and students talk about their spooky experiences on Vassar College's campus and how that experience changes the land of the living.
Hi, I'm Ilya. I'm a sophomore here at Vassar.
I love it. I'm very glad that you're here with us today. It's a perfect time for a ghost story. It's nice and cold and rainy, so I'm very excited to have this session today. And if you're ready as much as I am, you can go ahead and tell us about your wonderful ghost story.
So I guess, I don't know, there's been rumors about a Joss fairy on the 4th floor. And this year I moved to a room in the 4th floor from the 3rd floor. And when I first moved into the room, there was a sign on the door that said, "What are the things the Joss Fairy has done to you?" And there was just a list of a bunch of different stuff that some people had put on the paper. And me and my roommate just kind of brushed it off as jokes. We didn't think too much of it. I honestly thought it was cute. And then all was well until like one night we both had really, really bad nightmares. And I woke up around 3 in the morning crying. And that was the same, like that night we woke up and immediately there was a fire drill like at that time where we woke up, and so we had to evacuate. And then later I asked my roommate if she had trouble sleeping, and she said that she also had a really bad nightmare. So that's how I found out that we both had really bad nightmares where someone was chasing us. Mine got really personal into some traumatic stuff that has happened into my life. It really shook me. And I have a dream catcher, so I like set it out in the sun to, I don't know, I googled how to reset dream catchers and it said to put it out in the sun. So I did that. After I had that nightmare, I began having more nightmares, maybe like 2 or 3 times a week. Yeah, so I moved to a single a few weeks later. Once I started having nightmares, basically stopped more frequently. And once I moved into my single, the nightmares like felt the fairy sense. Besides, there's knocking on my door around like 6 p.m. every once in a while. And honestly, there's knocking on my walls. And it's not like the pipes. It's not like the pipes because I know like how pipes sound. Like I know how my heater sounds when it's going wonky with the air, gas, or whatever is in the pipes. But I thought the guy next to me was like playing jokes on me and knocking, but like honestly, I don't think he has the time to just like knock on my wall whenever he wants to. So, and the crazy thing is that it knocks, and once I knock back, it stops knocking. Yeah, so that's the fairy. That's my relationship with the fairy. I guess I don't really feel threatened by the fairy. I don't. If anything, I feel kind of comforted that it's paying attention to me. Or that I kind of feel like it's trying to help me in a way face what I need to face and work through trauma that I need to work through, or just thoughts and just it's pushing me in the right direction, I feel like. And yeah, once it does knock, it's usually when I'm really procrastinating or really distracted, and it just reminds me like, okay, what am I actually supposed to be doing, and get back to like the present moment. So that's my story. Yeah, as I was telling it, I remembered it's actually been in the walls since the last time I talked to you. It started coming on in the walls. Yeah, I actually,
A ghost that follows you through the hallways, to different rooms. So does it, with the knocking, you said I don't know if this is a coincidence, you said it knock, knock, knock. Does it knock 3 times?
I also just remembered I've been getting really into like repeating numbers ever since I moved into my single. I've been seeing a lot of repeating numbers. I actually, I don't know what you'll think of this, but I
Oh,
have a
please tell.
folder. I have a folder in my phone of like screenshots of like all these repeating numbers that I like by chance, if I turn my phone on and there's a repeating number, for example, like 3:30, 3 p.m., 5:55, 1:11, 4:44, 2:22, I like screenshot it and I try to keep track of it because yeah, I don't know. I researched like repeating numbers, and there's like angel numbers where like your spirit guides are trying to send you a message. Yeah, I've been getting a lot of repeating ones. That's the pattern. It used to be 5, but now it's 1.
So did you notice repeating numbers before your experience with the Joss fourth floor fairy?
Honestly, no.
Are you a generally spiritual person?
I'm not like religious, but I would say I'm spiritual. I do believe like there's something else going on besides science.
Do you think this encounter has made you more spiritual?
Yeah, I do feel like a presence, to be honest. And I guess everybody has different opinions on this stuff, but I don't know, like that's how I feel. So
You already described how you feel like it's the fairy that knocks on your door is kind of a comforting presence that's almost reminding you to maybe get to work or get your mind where it needs to be. Does it affect your opinion of Joss as a whole or as Vassar as a whole?
yeah, I think Joss is boss. Like I do think Joss is the best dorm for sure. I definitely think it's like different than the other dorms. And yeah, so I do feel more connected to Joss for many reasons, and this being one, having like connection to like this fairy. I'm gonna call it a fairy. I guess we will never know. And maybe that does like sort of bleed into my relationship with Vassar, which my relationship to Vassar is pretty complicated, I guess. I did have like a rough first year, sort of. Yeah, and I also want to say like Vassar is on like stolen land, and I've also been thinking a lot about that and what that may mean. Yeah, so I guess it is hard to say.
Yeah, and thank you for bringing that up because Vassar is on stolen land from the Native Americans, and we have identified that there are the ancestors of Native peoples on campus, not of the Stockbridge Munsee, but of other tribes that are not originally from this area. And so Vassar is definitely a haunted place right now. And ghost stories can definitely affect people in a negative way and definitely harm people. And what I hope to do through this podcast is to use ghost stories as a way of remembering those that may have come before us and also talking about how they can affect the current student population, whether in a negative or positive light. So I love how you have brought both into it, because I feel like your initial experience was rather negative with nightmares and sort of an uncomfortable experience, but now you've seemed to face what you need to face and have almost seen it as a growing experience. And please correct me if I'm wrong. But I'm glad that you have brought up the different sides of ghosts and ghost stories.
Yeah, of course. I actually just remembered. So this sort of just reminded me of like the spirit or fairy like guiding me. But the dream catcher that I reset, I've had that for maybe 5 or 6, maybe even 7 years. I got it in Alaska. But a few weeks ago, I was like taking my sheets off to wash, and as I was I put them in the washer, they were done. I was putting them into the dryer, and I saw like it kind of hit something in me to see like the beads broken and like the feathers ripped off of my dream catcher, just because I've had it for so long. But I kind of also felt relieved that I could sort of let go of that part of myself that I was trying to hold on to, and also use that as a protection for stuff in my life that dream catchers just can't protect you from. Yeah, I felt relieved. I don't know if the fairy had to do anything with the dream catcher. It was really weird for me that it was torn up and completely destroyed.
Well, I mean, I am staring at a dream catcher in my room right now that I actually have hung up, that I also got several years ago. And Ilya, I love how you are taking negative things and turning them into a positive light, because that story of kind of letting go reminds me of, in several cultures, people will tie bracelets or anklets onto themselves and not take them off until they fall off, where they then make a wish, or the bracelet has some sort of meaning that then when it falls off, you don't need it anymore. Which reminds me of kind of what you're talking about with your dream catcher. And I do wonder if maybe the fairy had something to do with it, maybe telling you don't need it anymore.
Yeah, I think this semester, I mean, it's really made me face like a lot of things in my life that I hadn't faced like ever, or I hadn't ever processed as like horrible traumatic things. And I really felt like I've grown a lot. And like these little things that I've talked about, like that the fairy has provoked, has really like guided me on this like path of growth and like acceptance of myself and like healing. Like it really has. It's definitely contributed.
Well, I'm glad that your ghost is so kind and helpful to you. I know not everyone has that experience when it comes to maybe the paranormal that haunts Vassar's campus. And I know you said that you have a complicated relationship with Vassar, and now you feel closer to Joss and possibly to Vassar as a whole through this experience.
Maybe I've yet to know, to be honest. Yeah, I don't know. I think like once I started getting the really, really bad nightmares, that was when I was like, I actually seriously need help. Like, this is bigger. Like, yeah. So that's when I started getting help. But it is like a lot of work to do.
Well, I'm very glad that you shared your ghost story and at the same time so much about yourself and your struggles, because that's important, especially in the time of COVID-19, when I don't really think we're going to be out of this anytime soon. So I really appreciate you being willing to share your story, bringing into the conversation the effects that ghost stories can have, because I hope that through this podcast, people can see maybe the good that ghost stories can do along with the bad, and how to really make them a productive form of remembering and processing and having a relationship with the space around us. So, Ilya, I want to thank you again for being on this podcast and giving me some of your time to create this wonderful content. And thank you so much for sharing your experiences.
Oh my gosh, yeah, of course. Thank you for having me.
So, usually this is the part of the podcast where I would have a discussion about the story, but we have some more tales that may concern this spirit, so I'm going to hold off for now. In the meantime, stay tuned and have a good night.